We begin tonight with brand new reporting at this hour and a growing backlash among some of President Obama's closest advisors and allies. Again, some in the Democratic presidential field after a number of candidates this week took aim at a number of Obama administration policies on deportations, Obamacare, trade, and climate change. Based on interviews with some of Obama's closest aides and advisors, the response from Obamaland boils down to this: knock it off. Those who served closest to Obama have expressed dismay at seeing his record picked apart. One former Obama official told NBC News, quote, "It's not a long-term strategy for the Democratic field. It's not a strategy that sustains anyone." Another former Obama official claimed that anyone sharply critical of Obama's record won't be the Democratic nominee, noting that many of what they saw as the sharpest attacks were coming from candidates not in the top tier. Still, President Obama's former Attorney General Eric Holder, who flirted with a run for president himself, had this message for the field, tweeting, "Be wary of attacking the Obama record. Build on it, expand it. But there is little to be gained for you or the party by attacking a very successful and still popular Democratic president." The number of explicit and implicit rebukes of Obama administration policies on the debate stage this week came as a surprise to some on the left, and those divisions were quickly targeted by President Trump.
Look what happened. But I was watching the so-called debate last night, and I also watched the night before. That was long television. And the Democrats spent more time attacking Barack Obama than they did attacking me, practically. Yeah.
The president pouncing, while some of President Obama's allies are publicly warning Democrats about the risk of critiquing the last administration. Many feel constrained from doing so more forcefully, partly because President Obama has signaled he doesn't want to put his finger on the scales during this Democratic primary, putting Biden in the awkward spot of running as a restoration of the Obama years and fielding criticism of Obama's record while Obama stays silent himself. We've got a phenomenal group here on set with me to talk about all of this developing story. NBC News correspondent Mike Memoli is here with this new reporting. Matthew Miller was an official in the Obama administration where he served as the director of the Office of Public Affairs for the Justice Department. And Faz Shakir is the campaign manager for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. Thanks to all of you for being here. Fantastic panel. And of course, Mike, I have to start with you and this new reporting. Break down the crux of what we're hearing from former Obama administration officials today. You and I have been working the phones, and basically they're saying this is just not smart strategy.
Yeah, Kristen, I mean, at the start of this primary campaign, the Obama alumni, which is a very tight-knit crew, they were in the trenches with the former president for, in some cases, 10 years. They always knew his record was at some point going to be subject to scrutiny. That didn't make it any easier when they saw it coming, especially on that debate stage Wednesday night with former Vice President on stage. And that was one of the reasons, frankly, why some of his advisors were worried about Biden's candidacy, that some of this would result in collateral damage on Obama. This is, in some ways, pride in their work, that they don't want to see that record picked apart. But it's also bad politics. They think that this is taking their eyes off the ball, that the focus should be on defeating President Trump, not attacking our own candidate. You saw the President Trump, enjoying this sideshow. He knows that it could have been all attacking him. And so, you know, there's difficulty, though, in addressing this too publicly, because in responding to these charges, they don't want to be seen as putting the thumb on the scale, as you said, for Joe Biden, because, of course, he's the one more than anyone running most closely on the Obama record.
Matthew Miller, take us inside what you and your former colleagues who used to work with former President Obama are saying and thinking. This obviously has to do with strategy. You want to see the Democratic nominee win. But what was the gut reaction when you saw some of those sharp comments?
Look, it's a very diverse group of former Obama employees, and there are former Obama administration officials who support every candidate in this race. So I think it would be unfair to say that everyone has kind of the lockstep opinion. But I think my take is kind of, you know, similar to that tweet you quoted from my former boss, Eric Holder. It would be a mistake to just run on, you know, restoring the Obama years. I don't think that's what any candidate should do. I don't think that's, if Barack Obama was allowed to run for a term again right now, I don't think he would run on what happened in the 8 years he was president. He'd run on the future and what he wants to do going forward. But at the same time, I think it's a mistake to spend your campaign attacking President Obama's record on immigration, attacking his record on health care. Look, if you want to talk about what he did on immigration, he was the president who gave, you know, who allowed children who had spent their their entire life here to stay under the DACA program. That program has been rescinded and is under court challenge by the Trump administration. President Obama was the president who tried to pass comprehensive immigration reform and couldn't because Republicans blocked him. So if you want to talk about the Obama era, talk about what Republicans did on these issues to block further progress and how you're going to change that if you're president.
And just to drill down, one former official said mostly it seems like these are candidates who are struggling to register in the polls. Is that how you see it, or do you see this as a broader critique? And I'm going to bring you in.
That's the thing. Look, if you looked at on the debate stage, it was the people on the edges of the debate stage, the people at 1 and 2% in the polls who were trying to find a way to climb their way to the top. And I would just say, if you think you're going to move from 1% to 15% in the polls by attacking a president who has something like a 95% approval in the Democratic base, that is a ill-conceived strategy.
Let me bring you in. What is your reaction to all of this, Faz? And is Obama's record fair game? I mean, to some extent, Senator Sanders is making the case, look, I want to start again when it comes to health care. I want Medicare for all.
But if you look at the language that Senator Sanders has used, he's been very intentional about it, saying he wants to build on the legacy of Obama. He's defended the ACA. He's been out there fighting against the repeal of the ACA, traveling all over the country to defend it. And at the same time saying we have to go much further. And so he's made the case for Medicare for all, but not saying it at the expense of anything that was terrible or wrong with the Affordable Care Act, just that we can move the ball forward, and we should, by establishing that we have a health care as a human right, ending corporate greed in our health care system.
But is Obama's record fair game? Is there a point at which we might see Bernie Sanders have sharper words for some of his policies?
President Obama was a good president trapped in a corrupt political and economic system. It's just the fact of the matter. Are there things that he did that, might not have been perfect? He would acknowledge it. I think all of us would acknowledge that, too. So are there areas of improvement on immigration, on criminal justice reform? Could you advance the ball even further? Yes. Does it mean that he did a bad job and was a bad president? No. And I think there isn't, certainly out of Senator Sanders' mouth, or I think most of the leading candidates, any suggestion that he was any kind of a bad president. In fact, he was a good one, just trapped in a bad system.
This is what Neera Tanden tweeted. She tweeted, the GOP didn't attack Reagan. They built him up for decades. Dem candidates who attack Obama are wrong and terrible. Obama wasn't perfect, but come on, people, next to Trump, he kind of is. This is my outrage of the day. Mike, the reality is when candidate Obama was campaigning, he didn't always have the most glowing comments about former President Clinton, for example. And that primary did get ugly, obviously, between him and Hillary Clinton.
That's right. And of course, when you're running against Hillary Clinton, we saw him critical of Bill Clinton's record in the White House. He said he wasn't a transformational president in the way that Ronald Reagan was, to Neera's point, exactly right there. And a lot of this comes out of the frustration, frankly, for how Joe Biden seems to be using Barack Obama as somewhat of a crutch, that in order to get out of all his lingering controversies here, especially about his own record, he says, listen, Obama vetted me and I'll take his validation more than anyone. And you saw Cory Booker on that debate stage say, listen, wait a minute. If somebody wants to criticize what the Obama administration did on immigration, for instance, you need to stand up for that as well. You can't use him as an asset and a liability at the same time.
Matt, what about that? I mean, we did see candidate Obama at times critical of former President Clinton.
Yeah, early on in the campaign, when he was still fighting with Hillary Clinton, there was, but those were mild comments. They were infrequent, and that was because he was going against the former president's spouse. I think in this instance, it would be a massive mistake, especially when you have a president who is trying to dismantle the Obama legacy piece by piece. I mean, that's the thing that I think if you're an Obama administration official, you take most personally when you see the president coming in systematically, rolling back the Iran deal, rolling back DACA, trying to go piece by piece through the Obama agenda and just roll it back. And sometimes there's an absence of a positive agenda from this president other than just to repeal everything that Barack Obama did. So if I'm looking for a Democratic candidate who's going to be the nominee, I want to hear from them how they're going to take on what Donald Trump is doing, not what Barack Obama did.
And weigh in on that, Faz. And I think more specifically, we didn't see Senator Sanders on the debate stage with Joe Biden in this round. When he is the next time, is he not going to have to take aim at what happened under Obama? I mean, what's his strategy going to be?
There's plenty in Joe Biden's record to take aim at, and that's where his focus will be on, whether it's the Iraq war or trade deals or anything that you want to go through on education policy and discrimination within our criminal justice system. There is a lot to focus on with regards to Joe Biden's evolution on many of these issues and positing that against Bernie Sanders' consistency on these for decades. And so we're looking forward to that debate. Quite frankly, we're looking forward to being on the debate stage with him in September, October, November, and December.
Well, one of the things that I've just heard from voters is about the tone, and you sort of touched on that, Matt, that at moments, particularly the second debate, seemed to, you saw the candidates really go after each other in personal and very aggressive ways. What do you make of that, Matt? I mean, again, the primary in 2007, 2008 got very ugly at various moments. So surprised by that, concerned by that?
I'm not concerned by that at all. I don't have any problem with the candidates attacking each other. This is for the most important office in the world. There ought to be a little bit of fighting. There's an old saying, politics isn't beanbag. And in addition to the party figuring out who the best nominee ought to be, as a voter, I want to see who can throw a punch and take a punch, because you're going to have to do that as the nominee. What I would like to see, however, instead of fighting over the nitty-gritty policy details, let's fight about a bigger vision for where to take the country. I want to see from candidates, how they contrast their vision to lead the country versus Donald Trump's, versus fighting over whether, my health care plan is going to get to 100% coverage versus 99% versus 98%. When you get down in the weeds, it just seems completely irrelevant to what I think voters care about.
Well, Joe Biden was asked about the attacks against his former boss. Here's how he responded. Take a look.
I must tell you, I was a little surprised at how much their incoming was about Barack, about the president. I mean, I'm proud of having served with him. I'm proud of the job he did. I don't think there's anything he has to apologize for. And I think, it kind of surprised me, the degree of the criticism.
Mike, take us inside the Biden campaign. Obviously, Joe Biden was the target of almost everyone's attacks in this last round of debates. His strategy has been to embrace his former boss, President Obama. Does that change at all? Does it need to change? Has it made him more vulnerable to some of these attacks?
Well, I was there yesterday as part of that gaggle, and I actually asked him, I said, there has been a change in your strategy here. He started out the campaign by saying, I'm not going to speak ill of another Democrat. And we saw very clearly on Wednesday night, he was eager, in fact, to bring up some of the aspects of his opponent's record that now is fair game. And a lot of this gets to what Matt has said, which is that the substance of the attacks are less important than the attacks themselves, the fact that you're willing to be seen as throwing a punch. Donald Trump has changed our politics, and everybody, we talk to voters all the time who say, I just want to see somebody on that debate stage who I am confident that can go up against Donald Trump. So but with Joe Biden, what you're going to be seeing over the next month and the months ahead is an actual idea of bringing the fact that he believes the most Democratic voters in terms of ideology are much closer to him than to a Bernie Sanders, that he actually represents the views of much more of the Democratic politics, and that we pay too much attention perhaps to some of the voices on the left which can be shaping this debate.
And Faz, just give us a preview of what we can expect, if you will, in the fall. A lot of people made note of the fact that during the first night of debates, what we really saw was this remarkable divide between the more progressive and more moderate candidates. Senator Warren and Senator Sanders did not criticize each other at all. In fact, they were arm in arm. I mean, is that sustainable? One of them obviously is fighting to become the nominee.
I know it is surprising to many people, but you can make a case for yourself without denigrating the other, particularly when you agree on so much. And so I think both Senator Sanders and Senator Warren feel like they can make a case for themselves without denigrating the other. We excitedly talk about, by the way, that President Obama said Medicare for all is a good idea. And I don't know that Joe Biden has said that or believes it. So I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm sure Senator Sanders will bring that up at some point in the forthcoming debate stage. I think the debate will become tighter on the debate stage, fewer candidates. We're looking forward to having Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris on the debate stage so that we can have these out and discuss your vision for America and whether you're willing to take on corporate special interests or not.
Matt Miller, what are you going to be looking for in the debates, the next debates?
In the next debates, I mean, I really do want to see the interactions between Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden. They haven't had a chance to be on the same stage together. Kamala Harris showed she's willing to take a swing at him, delivered a pretty effective one in the first debate. I'm really curious to see whether those two senators are willing to. And
the field will be much smaller in September when we see the next debate. So far, 8 candidates have qualified, so we'll have to see if more do. All right. Thank you for a fantastic conversation. Matthew Miller, Faz, thank you, and Mike Memoli.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.